All right. I got it working. All right. Let's do this. Let's do this. So, I have a lot of experience with getting myself back into action after after events like being laid off or being fired. Well, I haven't been fired that many times. Let's see, how many times I've been fired? I think once. I think the one time I was fired was when I was just getting into graphic design, and my first graphic design job lasted, I think I lasted an entire month before I was fired, right? Uh, but recently there's been a lot of people who have been laid off and or fired and or lost their jobs or made redundant or been replaced in some capacity, especially in the tech world. So what I wanted to do is see who wanted to get on with me and actually get some help live. I have a process I'm going to teach right now. And if you're interested in getting on with me live, please just post a comment and I will try to bring you onto the live stream. I haven't used StreamYard that much, but let's see what we can do. All right. So first, I'm going to start with the presentation so I can outline the concepts that I want to use to frame this this work session. Then I'm going to see how many people are up. It's 10 p.m. Pacific Coast time. But if you're like me, you may actually be on LinkedIn or Facebook right now, maybe doing some job hunting, applying for jobs. So if you run across this live stream, I want you to know that I am completely here to help you for as many hours as you need because I can help you get results because I've created results for myself several times. And maybe in another live stream, I can go over all the times I've literally recreated myself and switched careers, mainly using this networking without networking idea I'm going to talk about right now. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So it's 10:03. Let's start. Networking without networking. One of the things that helped me using this process that I'm going to teach you is for the first half of my life, I identified as a stutterer, and that's what I thought myself. That's what I thought I was. That I was a stutterer. I stutter, and what that created was in my life was a lot of hesitancy, a lot of fear, honestly, a lot of terror around conversations with anybody, with friends, with family. So when it came time to do a job interview, um, that it was very difficult, and I probably bombed a lot of job interviews for that reason, because as you may not know, but stuttering gets worse with anxiety and with hesitation and with fear, right? Anybody you know who stutters can talk just fine on their own, or talk to their cat or dog, or talking to a camera like I'm doing right now very easily because there isn't that person right in front of them. So it's taken me about, I'll say about 15 years to get to the point, the level of fluency I'm at right now. And it's been a long process of therapy and different, personal growth, um, challenges I've placed myself into boiling water many times. I've jumped into the fire many times. With this method, you don't have to do that. It's the easiest method. If you're an introvert, if you don't feel like you're good at conversation, if you feel that you're not good at making friends, if you feel that You don't come off as interesting to other people. With this method, you can just chill, you can relax, and I'm gonna explain to you why. But if this sounds familiar, you're in like the right place. You found the answer. You found the answer. So let me go over the concepts first, and then we'll get into the technique. And hopefully, somebody jumps on this live stream. And my goal is to serve at least one person. The promise here is how to meet 10 managers within 10 days. So let's see if I can move this over. See if I can move this over. All right, that's good. All right. So this is called Networking Without Networking, how to meet 10 managers within 10 days. All right. So let's get into it. All right. So first, we're going to talk about the problems that you face in the job market. And these are problems, or I would say dysfunctions, of the current job market or HR system or hiring process that I've experienced in my 20 years of job hunting and job seeking and job getting and getting laid off and getting fired and then getting back into it again. So I can't speak about how things were in the 80s or 90s because I don't know. I can just talk about how things were in the 2000s and the 2010s. All right. So the first problem that most job hunters face is that they are facing lots of competition. And we often think that we stand out because of our resume or what we've accomplished or our education or our previous job experience or companies that we have on our resume and our LinkedIn profile. So these are some of the things that we believe. So in reality, I should break this up into things that we believe that aren't true, like cognitive distortions, as they call it in like cognitive behavior therapy, cognitive distortions, things that you think are true that are actually not true, and you're acting on those, but acting on those faulty beliefs or those faulty ideas, and you're wondering why isn't this working for me, and then you start to blame other people, right? Or worse, you blame other people, and then you take it personally. That's a lot worse. This is not personal. It has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with how hiring works, right? And a lot of us, myself included, have been taught wrong ideas about how hiring actually works. The other thing, the other thing is broken HR technology. There are often a lot of well-meaning human resources technology applications to make the job easier for HR departments and for hiring managers. And one example of that is resume keywords. You've heard that, right? You have to have the right keywords in your resume so that your resume safely gets through the HR gauntlet and reaches an actual human. There's all these AI or search systems. So that's just one example. I'm not going to get into other examples. The other thing is corporate hiring policies. So often policies are like we have to hire a certain quota or a certain number of X type of people, and that's a real thing, and it does prevent other people from being hired. Um, Again, we're not blaming anybody. We're just saying that um, if we can add more tools to our toolkit, we vastly increase our chances of getting hired. Another thing is bad resume heuristics. What's heuristics? Heuristics is a term we use in psychology, and it just means a rule of thumb. So, for example, I'll take an example from the world of user experience. So often I'll hear from from recruiters, corporate recruiters, and independent recruiters who are working at an agency that um, this this company for this company you need to have, or for this manager you need to have a portfolio website. For example, you need to have like Zaid.com portfolio. It can't be on some random um, art website. It has to have you have to have www.zaid.com, or they're gonna like basically take your resume and they're gonna throw it away. Okay, that may be true, and although that really doesn't make sense, that sometimes is actually true. So that's just a bad heuristic. There's no way there's no way to measure somebody's capability or skill set. There's no way to measure how somebody comes off. There's no way to measure because people can lie. You can just lie on your resume, right? So there's a lot of bad heuristics going around that people are using because they have a big stack of resumes and they need some way to put some into the trash and who should I talk to? So this is what this is really all about. This process is teaching you how to get to talking to an actual manager because that's what you actually want. Let me finish this list, and then I'm gonna get into the actual like concepts that I'm teaching. Misleading hiring practice. So okay, so this is a bit of these are things that HR departments and recruiters do that may cause you to be a little demoralized. One example: people will often leave job listings up that are already expired or that they're closed for some reason. They're not needed anymore. There's no budget for it. They've already hired for it. But what they do is they leave it open so that so that people can apply, so that they can then add more people to their like short list. So they'll say something like, that role is already filled, but I have some other roles and I'd like to talk to you about them. So half the time when you're on LinkedIn looking for open roles, especially in tech, that's the area that I know about. I don't know about sales or other types of work or construction. It's not about construction. This is about tech. It's very likely that a lot of those roles are already filled. They're gone. So you're spending your time drafting a cover letter, massaging your resume, and you send off that application, and a lot of it is just gone. It just goes into a black hole. And yeah, you may get a call, um, but that role is filled. Another thing that people will do is they'll create roles that are catch-all roles, and the reason for that is because somebody left a role after maybe 10 years and they've done all these different things that together make no sense. And so the HR department will say, well, hey, Jack did all these 10 things, so we need another person who has all those 10 things or who has experience in all those 10 things. When in reality, that person doesn't exist because Jack got all that experience on the job being handed a bunch of various tasks, right? So often people, and I've had this experience as well, where you're in a job, your job title says one thing, but you do three, four different things that have nothing to do with your actual job title. That's a real thing. So that happens as well. So old roles, feeling out feeling out the candidate pool, and then filler roles. The other thing I want to talk about is filler roles. I've gotten myself into that trap as well. So what do I mean by a filler role? A filler role is when a team has a budget and they need to justify their budget amount for the next year. So they hire on staff solely so they can say, look, we used up this budget. We need it for next year. And what they'll do is they'll give you some busy work to do for 2, 3 months. And they have no intention of actually keeping you. It's just for budget reasons. So I'm gonna leave that one, and then I'm gonna talk about this one. Resumes aren't you, neither is your work. I think I've already mentioned that there's really no way to figure out who you are and what you can do with a resume, and that's why a lot of especially tech companies give people either for UX to give people like design exercises in for development. They're probably giving you some sort of coding exercise. I've done both. Um, so and I've also received like psychographic type of test. That's the only thing I can explain it as, like psychological tests where they aren't judging what you can do at all. They're judging your ability to work on their team and to deal with the various human people challenges and um, idiosyncrasies and neurotic issues that are with the present team or the present manager, right? The other thing you have to understand is that people hire for culture. So I'm in the Portland metro area, and if your team is a hipster team, they're very likely going to be more comfortable with hiring a hipster, and that's not bad. That's just human nature. The reason is, and this goes back to heuristics with a rule of thumb. If I can tell that you're a certain type of person by how you dress and how you talk and how you carry yourself, I can make guesses. Heuristic is about is about educated guesses. I can make guesses about your value system and how you behave and how you work with other people. And it's not being prejudiced, it's not being racist. That's just a heuristic. That's something that humans do. Something that humans do, right? And it's almost on instinct, really. People hire for culture. People generally hire who they know. All right. Now, here is where we're getting closer to what we're gonna work on. What we're essentially gonna do is we're gonna hack the system of knowing, of getting known, of people knowing. We're going to work on increasing the number of people who know you and actually like you. And I will show you, we're gonna talk about how do you get somebody to like you? What does that even mean? Okay. Getting the runaround from staffing agencies. Okay, so what is this? Getting runaround from staffing agencies. Getting the runaround from staffing agencies. Man, I did this presentation about over a year ago. Not sure what I meant when I said getting the runaround from staffing agencies. Oh, yeah, I know. Okay. What I was talking about was when you talk to recruiters at staffing agencies, sometimes what happens is they'll leave you hanging. Like you'll submit with them, you'll give them your resume and your authorization, the authorization to submit you, meaning they are legally allowed to present you to the employer, to to the to the target company who's actually going to bring you on. And oftentimes they just ghost you and they just disappear, or keep you they keep you th- they sort of lead you on when actually the role is actually been gone or been filled already, or when the role has been closed, instead of just cutting bait and moving to the next thing. because what that does is that kind of keeps like an open loop in your head because you're waiting on results. When what I'm going to advocate for is that you go and make your own results. Don't wait for people to make results. This method is the make your own results. We will make a way. Okay. We will make a way. So as men, our job is to make our way, right? Is to blaze a trail, to blaze a path. It's not to wait and hope. It is to go and take action, right? You dig into your energy as a man when you start taking action, and then something that fire inside you builds up. Okay. So this is what we want. We want fire. All right. Last thing in the problems, and I'm not trying to make you depressed. I just want you to understand that there's there's a lot going on that we want to work around. Okay. We're not going to solve all these problems. We're not trying to solve these problems. What we're trying to do is trying to work around using traditional human behavior. Traditional human behavior is you should be able to walk into a place and say, hey, I want to talk to the manager about working here. But in our current system, we have all of these layers of you have the front desk, and you have security, then you have HR, you have all these different layers between you and the person who's going to hire you, between you and your next role. There's all these unnecessary layers, right? And what I'm out here trying to help people with is I don't want you to get demoralized. I want to teach you a method that you can use right now. You can start doing this tonight. You don't have to wait till the morning. You can start doing this tonight. And if you want to do it tonight with me, you make a comment and you can get on with me right now. And we'll crush it right now, live. I'm not going to give you homework. I'm not going to say go off and do one, two, three. We're going to do it together. We'll do it together. Okay. Last one, last problem. I promise. New weak managers. Okay, what do I mean by this? And I've experienced this. Often you have a manager who is new at hiring and new at managing people. And so what that does is that decreases, well, it does two things. So one, it decreases your ability to perform well because oftentimes um, the 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 pro- the appropriate onboarding and support is not there. And a lot of people, again, not blame anybody, a lot of people don't know how to create their own support. The great thing about this method is that it it's baked in. If you do this method at work while you're hired, you should be doing this while you're hired. You will create the support, and you will create the onboarding, and you will create the mentorship that you want. The other thing it does is often when there's a new manager, the new manager is often going to bring in people that they know because they need a shortcut. They need a heuristic, a psychological shortcut to people who they can trust. The easiest way to do that is to hire people that you know. Again, this is not bad, it's not prejudiced, and it's not racist. It is just how humans behave. It is just instinct. Nothing wrong with it. I'm trying to explain to you how does hiring happen? Because if you were like me and you think hiring happens by applying for jobs, yeah, I get the interview, but I never get hired. Yeah, I get the interview, and you feel like you're beating your head against the wall, right? All right, one big goal. Our goal is to access the hidden job market and stand out. How? By maximizing the number of one on one, in person conversations that lead to other humans, not to a job listing, another human. Now, in person can be replaced by Zoom and calls at this point, but when I was doing this, I'm having in person meetings with people. I took a train from Portland to Seattle. That's a 4-hour ride. I took a 4-hour ride to meet with a manager for half an hour. And then got back on the train and took another 4-hour train ride from Seattle to Portland. I will tell you what I got. I should do a live stream just about that meeting. What I got in that meeting in half an hour was priceless. I would have paid for it. I would have paid for it, right? So this is a type of going around I'm talking about. There's certain things you will not get from an HR department, from your manager, or from your employer, but you can get from other managers in the area adjacent to the type of work you want. Okay. There's some priceless. I mean, you never know who other people know. You never know who other people know. So this little diagram, what we're trying to do is we start here and we want to meet people, and people lead us to other people and to other people. And eventually down the line, there's a job somewhere waiting for you that is not listed somewhere. That's not listed somewhere. Okay. The listing comes after the meeting. It comes after the meeting. And I've actually experienced this. The job listing comes after the call where we're trying to work out what you're going to do with your future manager, what you're going to do, and how much you're going to get paid for it, and what are the actual terms for it. Then he says, I'm going to have HR release the requisition, the job listing. Go on, search for it, and apply because you have to go through certain steps, right? But there's nothing that says that I have to leave that job listing up for X amount of months. I can leave it up for 5 minutes. So I've had jobs created to apply, and then once I apply, I for it, and the manager tells HR, great, take it down. That's what we're after here. That's what we're after. Okay. So it's 10:30. I'm gonna see if anybody has commented yet. Okay. All right, no one's commented yet. Let's keep going. All right. So this is the concept I learned this about 20 years ago. I paid about actually I shouldn't say how much I paid for it. I paid a career counselor to teach me this, and I promise you guys, it works. I promise you. Of all the different systems and productivity techniques that I've learned over this 20 years of trying to like improve my life and improve my job life, um, this is this is probably in the top 5 strategies. Okay. So what I'm teaching you guys right now, this is priceless stuff, man. Especially if you weren't previously aware of this. Right. The technical term for it is planned happenstance. And what it basically means is constructing unexpected career opportunities. The idea that you can construct or generate, and that's what we're doing. In other words, how can we create the conditions to get what we want. I need to mention a couple people. So let's talk about Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie, um, Dale Carnegie has a special place in my heart. He's one of the original, before there was a thing called guru, one of the original gurus of making the best of your life and the self improvement. Before people like, okay, before Tony Robbins, you had people like, man, I'm drawing a blank. Earl Nightingale, right? So Earl Nightingale and people like Dale Carnegie, they released like these tapes, and if you go on eBay, you can actually find these guys as original tapes, from like the 60s and 1970s when things were still on cassette. These big boxes. If if you guys are my age, I'm 45. You remember that before CDs, you get things like audiobooks and correspondence courses, right? On these big cassettes, on these cassette containers, these big plastic shell, clamshell cassette cases. So Dale Carnegie wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So what's so important about Dale Carnegie? What pertains to what we're talking about right now? So one of his concepts is how do you get people to actually like you? Okay, I'm not going to define what we mean by like. Just imagine what it means. What it means, whatever it means for yourself. So Dale Carnegie basically said, people like to talk about themselves. So that's clue number one of what we're going to do. We're going to ask people about themselves. It's it's very easy because we're going to be interviewing people. That's very easy and it's fun. And it takes all the pressure off of us because we don't have to prove ourselves. We don't have to show our resume. We don't have to show our LinkedIn profile. We don't have to show our portfolio. We don't have to discuss our accomplishments. All we have to do is be like a student and have that person almost like a teacher or like a mentor, right? Which people love to do. And this is one thing I tell my sons all the time is that most people want to be helpful and they actually enjoy and they feel good about being helpful. It feels good to help somebody, especially when we go to them and say, I need your help. I need your advice. People love it. So Dale Carnegie, so this is what we get from Dale Carnegie, among many other concepts and many other books he's he um, he has written. Bruce Lee, I think in Enter the Dragon, says, "My style, you can call it the art of fighting without fighting." So we're going to do this. We are going to say we are doing networking without networking because what most people think of networking is attending events and having a business card or going to an event or job fair and posting your resume. Dude, 1,000 other people have put down their resume. Okay. So we're going to have a job fair of one person, one on one. Networking without the sort of typical idea of what you think networking is. Networking is not even being active on LinkedIn. Unless you're doing this, unless you're making true connections with people, but most people are not doing that. They're just post they're just they're going on LinkedIn and they're posting articles. They aren't even writing anything original. They aren't digging into themselves and talk about themselves and say, this is who I am. If I don't say this is who I am, you have no idea of knowing who I am, right? Yeah, great. I can curate great articles or I can make a witty pithy comment on an article, or I can comment on an article, say, well said, well said, well said. All right. Networking without networking. Why is Emperor Palpatine here? So Palpatine very slowly over time um, created his rise to power. Right? And we're not saying be evil, but there's a certain attitude here that I want you guys to absorb. The attitude is that you create these outcomes. You create your outcomes with very deliberate, calculated action. And we don't have to be mean about it or cold about it. And we don't have to be evil. We don't have to be evil about it. But we have to be calculating. Okay, this is part of the skill set of being a man, is being calculating and estimating, and to be able to liberate, okay, to think about things and work through problems, have logic, have a process, have procedures. Okay. So if you don't have any of those for any aspects of your life, you need to start working on that. Okay. I can help you with that. So hopefully it doesn't take us years like what Palpatine is doing, right? We want to get, I think the goal that I created for tonight was I want to help one person create face calls with 10 managers in 30 days, 10 different managers, 10 different people in your field. So if it's design, okay. If it's UX, if it's uh, business analysis, development, product management, program management, project management, PM. I don't care. I don't care. This works for everything. Great. Reid Hoffman has a great book called The Startup Review. There's only two concepts I want you guys to get here. Network. So his idea that network and resources create momentum, forward momentum. You got to be out there talking to people. But how? A lot of us are not doing networking, or a lot of us are not having conversations properly. Our conversations are not productive. So, what I'm going to teach you tonight is one, how to get in front of a manager and what to actually say so that the conversation is productive. And this goes back to Dale Carnegie. The conversation is productive when a person likes you and says, "Man, I really helped that person," and he has you in his mind. And managers know other managers. So when they get wind of something, they say, I just talked to somebody about this. You should talk to him. That's what we want. That's what we want. We want to have all of these people looking out for us, because they like us and appreciate us. Why do they appreciate us? Why do they appreciate us? Because we gave them the gift of listening instead of yapping, running our mouths. We gave them the gift of giving our attention to them so they can explain to us, they can vent, they can unload, they can drop some gems, some knowledge on us that they've learned over however many years they've been working, decades. It's a gift to you to receive, but they're receiving your attention and your regard. Okay, let's go back. Startup review, networking, resources, momentum, network intelligence, personalized advice. This is what you want. And this is what I got when I created my graphic design career and my user experience career, right? Graphic design 10 years, UX 10 years. Okay, maybe I should do this, right? Personalized advice. They said, Zaid, for your situation, you should do X. You should do X. And these people's advice worked for me because they spend enough time with me to know me. And when they know your situation, it's very different than when you're just submitting a resume. It's very different experience. So, three activities. Let me just check. No one has commented yet. Great, no problem. So, three activities. Three activities. Okay, three activities. Activity number one is called outreach. Outreach is getting a hold of another human, getting a hold of another human, and having that human say, yes, I'll meet with you for coffee. Yes, we'll have a call. Yeah, we can meet on Zoom. When I was doing this, I had people meeting me for coffee in person, taking time out of their workday. Yeah, sure, I'd have to drive or make my way around where they work. Sure, it's easier in Portland metro area because there's a lot of it's just generally more walkable. People are generally more friendly here. People are generally more interested in helping others and being helpful to others here. Sure, I can't say the same thing for other parts of the country because my experience in other parts of the country is very limited, right? Outreach, getting a hold of somebody and having them say, "Yes, I will talk to you. I'll talk to you." And I've had people meet me for coffee and talk to me for an hour, an actual a full-on hour, right? So that's outreach, and then we have the reverse interview. That's the more custom part of this that you're not going to learn anywhere else. Outreach, you can figure it out. There's people who can teach you how to do outreach, but it's the reverse interview that makes this special. And then there's follow up. All right. The most important part, though, honestly I should say, is the reverse interview because if we already have a lot of people in our friends and family network, and we don't have to go on LinkedIn, we can we don't even have to do outreach. It still helps to know how to craft the messaging. So, three activities: outreach, reverse interview, and follow up. Let's check time again. It's 10:45. 10:45. All right. So here is the outreach script. What to when contact potential node via email, phone, or LinkedIn. The reason why we want to customize this hi message is that, okay, the overarching rule of outreach is I'm not a stalker, I'm a real person. I looked at your profile, I know who you are. I didn't send this blanket message to 100 people. I'm not spamming you. So I'm not spamming you, and I'm not stalking you. So if you send a message in the morning, you should say good morning. If you send the message in the afternoon, you should say good afternoon. If you send your email or your note or your connection request in the evening, you should say good evening. Then we have what's called the lead and sentence. How you, which this is basically just how you found the person, and just again proving that I'm not a stalker. I found you via Google or whatever platform, LinkedIn, Twitter, um, or if you are getting this referral from somebody else, you're going to mention that person. George said you would be a good person to talk to about this thing, or I found your name on. And often, mm, you know, if you're taking a break from finding people on LinkedIn, there are some other ways to find people. So, for example, there's professional associations, there's conferences, there's company websites, there's other places besides social media to find people. There's nonprofits. So the whole point here is we want to tell people, um, we want people to know how we found them. Okay. And again, if you want to work with me on this for your situation, um, please message me, or comment on this live stream, and we'll customize it for your situation. And the reason for contact, I'm really interested in, and you just mentioned the topic, in nowhere here are we talking about jobs. We're talking about subject matter. We're talking about just the area. So my case, user experience. I'm really interested in user experience. What's better is if you are more, um, get more detailed. I'm really interested in node development for e-commerce. You see how that's more specific? I'm really interested in, um, uh, e-commerce enterprise, designing e-commerce enterprise applications, or DevOps for people who are working in construction, for example. So you want to give them an idea that you want them to basically raise their hand and say, "Yeah, that's me. Hey, that's me." Why is that so important? Often we don't know what people are going through. Often, right? Sometimes people need this. People, it feels good. Sometimes people need to say, "Yeah, that's me. I'd love to talk to you." Some of our work environments are so stale and so boring. They never get, this is the most exciting thing that's happened to them all week. And they'll think about you all week. Man, I'm gonna meet so and so. I'm gonna meet. Man, I'm gonna talk about this. I'm gonna drop some wisdom on this guy. I'm gonna change his life. Right? Some of these people. Listen, I've had people. The first time I tried this, the first time I did this outreach work, I found. I think I was interested in educational technology, like multimedia for like for schools, school districts, universities. And I found a professional association that had this, again, this is early 2000s. So people didn't know that you have to hide contact information. People's emails and phone numbers were just on the internet because spam wasn't a thing yet. There were no Nigerian princes yet, right? There were no scammers yet. I wrote a form letter and I addressed it to about 20 professionals in this professional association, mostly on the West Coast. Many people emailed me back the next day. I had a few people literally call my house because I put my phone number. And I'm going to teach you this. You're going to put your phone number. So you're saying I'm not a stalker. I'm willing to put my actual phone number and my actual email. Again, we're telling people I'm not a stalker. You can call me and you can cuss me out, but that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to call you and they say, I'd love to talk to you. I have so much to talk about. I have so much to tell you. Let's talk right now. I had people call me back and like talk to me over the phone. I had people before I never finished this master's program I was in, but I was only 1 year into the program. I had some people tell me, "Yeah, I have a role on my team. Here it is. Here's the job description." I would never have found that. Okay. I would never have found that opening role. I should have taken it, but I would never have found that opening because it wasn't. Again, this was the age of Monster. There was no Indeed. There was no LinkedIn jobs. There was no Facebook jobs. All we had was monster.com, and not everybody was on Monster. It wasn't necessary. It wasn't an HR thing. It wasn't a law that you have to post your job listings everywhere. It wasn't a thing yet. So I got that job listing simply from doing this outreach without doing any interviews. I didn't even talk to the guy. I just had him email me back and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, we have this job listing." You see how that works? See how that works? I'm really interested in X, and I saw on your profile that you've done it for quite some time. Or you can say something, I noticed that. What we're doing here is um, I looked at your profile. I looked at your profile. So what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, I actually looked at your profile. Again, I'm not spamming you. I'm not spam. I'm not spamming you. I looked through your LinkedIn profile. I looked through your about page on your blog or your website or this company website. So I picked you, and you let them say that, yeah, that's me. You noticed me. How did you know? It's like that. Actually, I'm not going to mention it. You want them to say, how did you know? How did you know? Or yeah, that's me. Yeah, I've done that. I've done that work. You know me. You've looked into me. This is making people feel special. Back to Dale Carnegie. And we're not lying. We're not lying. People are special. Yeah, they are. That's right. They are. Okay. So the proposition, are you available for coffee or lunch? I really like to get the perspective and advice of somebody like you who, again, we're coming with our hands out saying, please help me. Who would like to help me? Can you help me? Give me the perspective and the advice. Notice that we're not talking about jobs. Now, if they aren't local, you have to say something like, are you available for a conference call on Link, Skype? Nowadays, it's Zoom. I'd really like to get the perspective of somebody who is, again, we're saying the same thing. Perspective or advice, perspective or advice. Because that's true. We are looking for advice. We're looking for advice. Okay. So two things are going to happen when we do this. One, the person is going to refer us or recommend that we talk to these other people. Man, this was such a fun chat we had, man, with my coffee. This is sparkling water, but this is such a fun chat we had. Hey, listen, you should talk to my other friend. You should talk to this other guy. He works at this company. He's a manager for on this team. And he just recently, you know what? He's building a team. Hey, you should talk to him. That's what we want to happen. And then outside, after the actual call or after the actual meeting, we want people to say, to think, to have like a running, basically we're inserting a running little search script that's just running, you know, that's like just constantly listening in the back of their mind. So when something does come up, it, I talked to somebody last week. I talked to this young guy. He was asking for advice about this thing. We talked about an hour. Great guy. Notice that you didn't say anything about yourself. You just said, you just ask questions, and that guy says, "Man, that's a great guy." Back to Dale Carnegie. It's really an excellent book. If you can get your hands on a copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's really an excellent book. Even if just to get a sense for where a lot of this Tony Robbins stuff got started. Earl Nightingale, Earl Nightingale's "Lead the Field." I think I have this. I have a 7 CD set here somewhere. Lead the Field. You should drive around listening to this stuff in your car, listening to Dale Carnegie tapes, right? And woo stuff. It's what we're doing right now. Just practical psychology. There's not woo woo stuff. There's not manifesting. Okay. There's not spirituality. There's not auras. There's not energy healing or intuition. Okay. And I'm not denigrating any of those concepts because I actually subscribe to a lot of those concepts myself. But all that's backed by manifesting anything outside of action. Outside of action. So what we want to do is take action, action, action. The action comes back to us like a boomerang, a certain mindset, a certain attitude, right? Steve Hardison calls this creates the being, who you be. Are you being? Who are you coming off as? Who do you believe you are? What's your self? What's your self? Your underlying like operating system programming of who you believe you are, who you really believe you are. So what's going on with you inside, right? Action creates that being, and then that being spark um, motivates us to take more action, which this cycle, this spiral, ooh, like that, right? So that's the outreach script. If anybody wants help with the outreach script, please comment, and I will help you. Okay, great. Let's see if somebody's on YouTube. I'm just curious what happens. I'm on this new platform, guys. It's called StreamYard. See if I do view on YouTube. Let's see what happens. See if anything happens. Hmm. Actually, I'm going to leave that there. Let's leave it. All right. Um, if let's see. Let's go back to my LinkedIn profile. All right, real quick, linkedin.com/in/Zaid, or just look me up on LinkedIn. So if you want, just send a connection request and we can do it that way. Yeah, I'm gonna check LinkedIn real quick. Wonder if this does anything. Let's see what happens when I check LinkedIn. Yeah, this works. This is cool. This is cool. This is cool. All right. So www.linkedin.com/Zaid Hisham, or just search, put it in the search, Zaid Hisham. Okay. Now we get to the main event, the reverse interview. The reverse interview. We call it a reverse interview because a job interview is a manager interviewing you for a particular role. A reverse interview is us interviewing a manager, not for a role, but just to add him to our node network. We just popped him in right there. Okay, let's go back. Reverse interview. I think I copied. I helped somebody um, create a couple meetings with regarding agile methodologies. So this is a topic, and if you don't know anything about this, it's fine. So we want to ask open-ended questions. How? What? Why? Who? We're not asking yes no questions. We don't ever want anybody to ever say no. We want to turn that subconscious on. We always want them to say yes or talk about something. So these are some sample questions. If you want me to actually help you with some questions, again, connect with me. We can talk about it over Facebook Messenger. How did you get into coaching agile methodology? How did you start out? So this is an easy thing to ask. How did you start out? And then we want to know what their actual day is like. What do they actually do all day? And this is when people really get to just vent and unload on you. We want people to unload because we want people to have a feeling of a release. When I talk to that person, I got a release. So part of what's going to have them appreciate you is they experience a release with you. What's your day like? What do you think is the best way to do X? What do you think is the best way to? How did you get into? Yeah, that's better. Your day like. What do you think I should do in order to start learning X? Now, if you do this right, you should have a talk for at least 45 minutes to an hour. Okay. Make the conversation all about them. Back to Dale Carnegie. So to keep things going, we say things like, "Really? Oh, that's interesting. Why is that? You know, wow, that's fascinating, man. Tell me more about. I took I took notes about this thing. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How does that work? How does that work? Right? How does that work? And we always close with, so this is a little bit of psychology here. We're always close with, who else should I talk to? Not, hey man, do you know of any job openings? Because the reason is most people don't. Most people actually, they aren't, people aren't lying when they say they don't know, because job listings open and close very quickly in the world of HR, especially in tech. They open and they close. They're budgeting for it one week, the next week the budgeting vanishes. Oh, take that requisition down. Take 2, 4, 4, 5, 7 down. Sorry, and HR takes it down. And you say, oh, I found this on LinkedIn. I where is it? I don't see it. So who else should I talk to? What that does is it almost like turns them into like a node. It turns them into one of these nodes where they're listening. This is the actual phrase that turns on their keep keep Joe in mind, keep Joe in mind, keep Joe in mind. And when you hear something pop, they say, oh, I talked to this guy named Joe last week. Hey, you should talk to him. And then he reaches out to you and says, hey, I have a manager you should talk to. He has an opening. Because again, openings come in and then they close. Wow, well, something happened here. Huh, interesting. All right. Never mention job openings. Ever, 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 ever. Never. Let them do it. Let them do it. You want to expand your network as far as possible. This stops your network. When that person says no, this little thing in their operating system turns off. And they say, oh, Joe's looking for a job. Well, I don't have any job anymore, so I can't help him. There's no reason for me to talk to him anymore. He's only talked to me because he's looking for a job. What we want to do is build networks of people that we know and we talk to. From time to time, we see how this isn't just about jobs, and this is what people don't get. This is not about getting a job. You don't get a job. Yeah, if you're working in retail, fine. If you're working in fast food, fine. We're talking about highly coveted tech roles that pay that many of which uh, pay six figures, and people reserve those for their friends and family. Again, blaming anybody. We're not blaming anybody. We're just saying um, that's just how people are, and that's okay. If they mention another potential node, like who should I talk to? When you ask who should I talk to, and they say this person, how can I get introduced to him? How can I get in contact or get in touch with Bob? And that person that you're interviewing says, I'll send an intro email and I'll introduce you to Bob. That's the best. That's the best. That's a lot better than so and so said you'd be a good person, because it's coming from a trusted email. What we're doing here is we're hacking the path of trust. It's just trust. That's why people hire who they know. That's why people hire um, friends and family, because it's a shortcut to trust. It's a shortcut to trust. How can I get in touch? Okay. So the words contact and get in touch leaves open the option for email or phone that you're actually going to get that information. Okay, this work, and this is probably a lot of maybe projection on my part, and I may be unfairly judging people, but this is just from my experience of other humans. People generally don't know of openings. I mentioned that in the previous slide. They really don't know because, again, things open and things close. Even in their own things open and close very quickly. Asking about jobs, so we don't want to talk about jobs. Asking people about themselves opens their minds and keeps you in mind in their operating system. We're inserting programming into their operating system to keep you in mind. Okay. Often lonely and bored. And often people busy and with paying their mortgage, paying their bills. They have kids, their kids issues, they're married, their marriage has issues, they have boyfriend, girlfriend, their boyfriend, girlfriend, they have issues with their. So people are often thinking about other things. And you've often seen people take a call and duck out of the office, right? People are lonely and bored. So we are a gift to people who are lonely and bored. We're relieving people. We're suffering here. This is serious. We are relieving suffering. Um, we're helping people be less lonely and less bored. Some gift to people. What an awesome gift that we're helping people. You're helping people. People say, "Oh, somebody wants to talk to me about me, not talk to me about bills, or talk to me about something I have, or how I failed, or how I haven't done this or that. Somebody wants to talk to me about me, my career, and my job, and what I do every day. Somebody wants to know what I want to do every day. Imagine that. People want other people to be interested in them. People want to vent. Listen, you are probably the only person in their life who is giving them your undivided attention because people are so, again, this is probably fair judgment, but there's a critical mass of people who are not very who are very self-centered, to be honest with you, and are not very interested in other people. Okay, so life can be very lonely. You can be alone in a you can be alone in a massive office full of people who are heads down all day. And when you go to the coffee stand or the Keurig or wherever you all get your snacks and drinks at, listen, man, people are suffering out there, especially men. Men are suffering big time. Okay. So guys, we are relieving suffering when we are seeking help from somebody who's 60 years old and nobody talks to them anymore. This also works because it removes the anxiety from the process. Removes the anxiety from the process because you don't have to talk about yourself. All you have to do is ask people questions. So it's relaxing on the interview. It's from you, the interviewer's side. Both of you guys are relaxed because neither of you are trying to get something. You're just helping each other. And make no mistake, you are helping other men when you reach out to them and say, man, I'd love to talk to you. I've spent hours doing this. When people reach out to me for my help, I spent hours helping people over email and over the phone. And the stuff works, man. The stuff works. I've had people land jobs over this. The stuff works. So I should actually change this. Instead of doing homework, we're gonna do this live. So I'm gonna check my LinkedIn one more time and see if anybody has reached out to me. This is my first night doing this, so I'm gonna come back again tomorrow night. See if anybody has reached out to me. All right, cool. So nobody has. Okay, great. So the list is make a list of people. The first thing to start is make a list of people who you know, so friends and family. You know what? Let's do this right here. Friends and family. Then we're going to organize it. Organize by. Um, how should I say this? We're going to organize our list by who's closest to our goal, our target, our targets. Yeah. For example, I'll give you an example. When um, if I'm looking for a role in tech, for example, the I'm going to put at the top of my list anybody I know personally who works at a tech company or who has worked at a tech company. Okay. So if you have a friend or a family member or an acquaintance who does work at a tech company, even in something that's unrelated to what you're interested in. Let's say, for example, you are interested in user experience design, but you only know of people at Intel who are programmers, who are scrum masters or hardware engineers or managers of some kind, marketing, anything, but they're in tech, or some of their clients are tech. That's all you need. So you just organize your top 10 should be the top 10 people in my friend or family network who has anything at all to do with tech. You put them at the top, and then you contact them first. So you prioritize the list. Prioritize the list, right? And like based on topic, based on proximity, proximity to target. All right, and then we start reaching out. We use our outreach script, right? And this is not sales, but we need to understand that most people will not get back to you because people are just busy and not paying attention, and not everybody is monitoring their not everybody's monitoring their LinkedIn all the time, right? So we want to make sure we connect with with a lot of people, and I think LinkedIn has a limit unless you have some sort of special account. I don't recommend getting some extra paid LinkedIn account like LinkedIn Pro or something, or business, LinkedIn Business, um, because a lot of your work you're just going to be looking through profiles. We don't want to spam people. We want to get like, let's shoot for five profiles a day, and then start reaching out. All right, great. Need help. So if you need help, I want you to connect with me. Um, I don't no, I'm not sure how comments work on StreamYard, but I want you guys to come on if you are still awake, and and uh, and tell me what do you like to work on. And my goal is to come back tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night at around 10 p.m. Right. Yeah. So connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know what you're working on. Especially, listen, man, if you've been laid off or fired, I've been laid off a lot, right? I've been fired a lot. I've been fired a couple times. You know, they call it layoff, but when it's only you, and there's a reason, that's being fired, right? And we can talk about that sometime as well. Wow, actually had one person show up. That's good. Excellent. Live viewers. Great, great, great. All right, guys. Um, I'm going to end the broadcast, but if you view the replay, feel free to contact me on via LinkedIn. I'll work with you live, man. I'll work with you in LinkedIn chat or Facebook Messenger or I don't think YouTube has messaging. So if you're on YouTube, just look me up on LinkedIn. All right. Uh, so let's see. How do I end this? So again, this is Zaid Hisham. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I spent an hour talking about men in tech who have been laid off or fired and helping you access the hidden job market. Really, this is the way that people get hired, man. I'm not telling you to not submit job applications. I'm not telling you to do that. But doing that can be a little demoralizing at times, and it's not pleasant. It doesn't feel good. We can make it feel good. Just it just takes some little moving things around in here and in here, and putting a lot more intention and effort. And this is what helps with interviews. It's hard to do that with a disembodied job interview. It's easy when we're talking to a person, when we're looking at an actual profile of a manager, because that's just natural. It's natural to want to be agreeable to a person, other than as opposed to being agreeable to a job description. And a lot of job descriptions are really like wish lists. Like I said earlier in the stream, it's just people throwing everything in that the previous guy did who was there for 20 years. That nobody can come in with that experience. When you have trust, experience goes out the window. I've had people contact me and say, I'm looking for people to train in data science. Do you know anybody? I've had a manager tell me this. If you know somebody who's interested in data science, is coming from an adjacent area, I will train them on the job. And I've done many times, hired, doing anything, and having to catch up on the job. So the idea of job descriptions and resumes out the window. You can play that game all you want. But if somebody likes you and trusts you, they will hire you as long as you can exhibit. This is just like the old days, man. This is why I'm telling you about people like Dale Carnegie, um, and Earl Nightingale. Is that in the old days, people used to put a hired a hired for hire sign in the window, and you pick it up and say, "Hey, Mister, are you still hiring? I'd like a job." And nobody expects you to have experience and everything, but you need to be teachable and trainable. Which, if you're on this live stream, if you're watching this after the fact, you've already proven that you are are teachable and trainable. That you can pick up a process and model it and implement it and customize it and be deliberate like Palpatine and calculating without being evil. Okay. So I'm going to end it here. Take care. Take care, guys.